responding.
10-4, Kansas City, 499.
Down to fire. Station 1 units responding. Pier 6-1, Redondo.
Commander 6-1.
Reported to be underneath the Breakers restaurant.
That's affirmative, but it was called in by Tony's restaurant.
And Commander 6-1, Agent 6-1. Let's send 2 guys on Engine 3 to the fireboat and take the fireboat below the Breakers restaurant. I'm at Flagler and 190th. A heavy smoke showing. I'm on top of the parking structure now. Commander copied. Commander 6-1, Redondo, put in a plan 1. Go ahead. Okay, here's the size up. We got the underneath of the pier completely involved from Pier Properties Limited building to the north end of Breaker Seafood. Harbor Patrol is putting water on the fire this time to no avail. Commander 6-1, Redondo, let's reaffirm that with the police. I want as many police officers as we can get down here to assist us in evacuation of personnel and close off the pier completely. Copy, Agent 6-1. Can you give me a status on your situation at this time? Okay, Commander 6-1 from Engine 6-1. We're going to have to fight this from fireboat status. We are going to put man in the breakers to guard that as an exposure. It is on fire. 10-4. 6-1, Redondo. I want to change this. I want to go to a plan 2. Notify Torrance Commander that the command post is at Torrance Circle. Commander, go ahead. I think we just lost the water main under the pier. You're going to have to get close by. I don't know if the hydrant near Cattleman's works, but they did lose the main to the pier. We're going to try to stop the fire from going as far north on the pier as we can. We'd also like to see if we can attack the fire on the roof of the breakers. That's going out too. Pier 6-1 to Pier Sector. J-Boss from Cody, there goes the breakers. We've got the roof. AC, go ahead, Pier. Engine 6-1 from Commander. Go ahead, Engine 6-1. The Breaker Seafood is gone. I say we should take a stand just south and just north of Breaker Seafood. Okay, that's affirmative. We have the north sector with Captain Cody, Engine 6-2 and Engine 6-4. Four boats from Engine 6-1. Bravo, go ahead. You gotta get over here by me and push the fire towards the north. To a plan 3. I have one engine company from county here. I want to request an additional county engine company. Cody from McCarter. I'm on the north side, and we need some help over here. Try to protect this exposure to the old Calvins, and so give me some units over here, okay? We need to protect the exposure on the Calvins, so get me water, man, and hose. Determine if the edge is threatened. We've got a lot of smoke on this north side. We've pulled off of the main structure. We are now back away from the pier part that was heavily involved. We are protecting the Cattleman's. We've given up on the other side. Too much fire, too much smoke. Engine for South Sector. Commander, go ahead, Captain Cree. We have lost everything to the port of Spain. We're retreating at this time. The fire's traveling too fast underneath the pier. Car reports that the edge is going. We have a lot of flame and smoke propagation. We've also got another helicopter up here, News 4. An update, Chief McCarter's group is trying to make a stand. They're doing a trench cut. They're going to try to stop it. It looks pretty grim, though. The roof of Cattleman's, we're trying to hold it. we're attempting to remove that bridge. We're trying to save the canal itself. At this time, we have 2 hose lines on top. I need another 3.5 to fly out here wide off with some 2.5 and 3 companies. Affirmative.
Pier is jinxed. These hose lines under the pier. Guy with the nozzle. It's like inch and a half lines underneath the pier.
I see, go ahead. I got a good view of this, Chief. If you get anything available, you might want to put somebody up on Catalina patrol. We're moving a lot of fine brands.
1.5 inches. They got a 2-inch out there too. Yeah, how long does it take them to walk that? Quite flammable, I guess. What? Size 313. Give Brandon.
First this year, it was storm-driven giant breakers that crashed into the Redondo Beach Pier. That was bad enough for the famous California tourist attraction, but then fire. Correspondent Sam Chu Lin has the complete report on a very trying year thus far for the Redondo Beach Fire Department.
For 100 years, the Redondo Beach Pier has been one of California's big tourist attractions. Over the years, the pier has seen many changes, both man-made and at the hands of nature. May 27th, 1:40 p.m., Memorial Weekend, the Southern California seaside attraction was again hit with a major disaster.
Attention, Station 1, structural response. Breakers Restaurant, 400 Fisherman's Wharf. Breakers Restaurant, 400 Fisherman's Wharf. This is called in from Tony's. They state a lot of smoke is coming from under the building. Platoon Commander 6-1 Engine 6-1 Engine 6-3 Rescue 6-1 and Truck 6-1. Respond and acknowledge. Kansas City 499.
A fire filled with toxic fumes destroyed 34,000 square feet of the pier and 15 businesses. Redondo Beach City firefighters, along with mutual aid companies from Los Angeles County, neighboring cities, the U.S. Coast Guard, and other agencies, fought the blaze for 2 hours before bringing it under control.
When we discovered it...
Initially, the fire was concentrated at a restaurant located at the bottom portion of a U-shaped pier. Redondo Beach Fire Captain and Training Officer Ron Cody was one of the first on scene.
What is your objection as far as any hazard?
Well, we had smoke coming from the bottom of the Breakers restaurant. It looked like it was a pier fire. And I reported to the commander that the smoke and the heat was building, and eventually we had fire showing, and it lapped over the side of the pier, went to the roof of the Breakers, and ended up spreading north and south.
Cody was assigned division supervisor to fight the fire from the north. Redondo Beach firefighters had rehearsed the scenario many times in anticipation something like this might happen. The buildings on the pier are close together, there are creosote pilings, and much of the construction is wood.
Okay, here's the size up. We got the underneath of the pier completely involved from Pier Properties Limited building to the end, north end of Bleecker Seafood.
I was responding from our Station 2, which is in North Redondo, and we had the units from Station 1 responding. At approximately 1:42, 2 minutes into the call, I asked for the captain to send Engine 3 2 men to the fireboat, man our fireboat, which meant they had to go past the fire to the fireboat. It's kept at our harbor office. They manned the fireboat at 1:43 due to the fact that Captain Cody was on scene and gave me a size up of a large amount of smoke showing. I upgraded the call to a Plan 1, which gives us everything from Redondo, 2 outside mutual aid engines to man our station.
9 minutes into the blaze, OST upgraded to Plan 2, signaling 2 engines, a truck, and an additional battalion chief from outside cities to come into the fire. Early on, OST sectored the fire, ordering units to fight the rapidly moving blaze from the north and the south.
It isn't a typical situation where you can get in front of the building itself, so we had to cut the fire off from each side. From the land side, we had a terrible problem in as much as all that smoke, you couldn't see the extent of fire that we had underneath the pier. So that was another reason for sectoring it like that, was to try to find out how much fire we actually had moving in each direction. The initial fire was, with the wind and weather conditions, was driven more to the north sector. That's why the largest amount of our units were put on the north end to begin with, to try and cut it off there. Early in the fire, that was our major problem, was the fire moving north towards a very large restaurant called The Edge.
Firefighters working the blaze from the southern sector started cutting holes in the pier and used cellular nozzles in an effort to cut off the fire. Division supervisor for the southern sector was Captain Tom Krieg.
We initially set up lines to attack the fire in the Breakers restaurant, which was the first involved structure, both from its north end and from its south end. Little did we know until reconnaissance shortly thereafter that the entire pier underneath us was well involved.
I don't remember ever getting overwhelmed quite so quickly as the fire. We got extended out a little bit far, and the real problem was trying to get back to a position that we could hold. 3 times we set lines, 3 times we retreated back.
The firefighters quickly realized that they were in a defensive mode and that more help was needed. Once again, Incident Commander Pat Ost.
At 2:09, approximately 29 minutes into the fire, I went to what's called a Plan 3, which gives us 6 outside agency engines, a truck company battalion chief, and we had 2 engines from Los Angeles County responding and an additional battalion chief. At approximately 40 minutes into the fire, it was apparent that we weren't going to be able to hold it with that configuration of units, and I requested an additional LA County strike team, which is 5 more engines, another battalion chief, and an LA County fireboat.
Approximately an hour and a half into the fire, there were 6 fireboats, 19 engines, and 156 men battling the blaze. A critical part of that fight was under the pier, where there were no sprinklers, a limited number of catwalks.
When we got under there, we found out just from looking that where the crews up above were fighting the fire, it was already burning underneath where they were standing. So we got our lines in operation under the pier and pushed the fire back to where the guys on top were protected. The situation had become untenable. We were going to just go in the water. We were just going to drop from the pier into the water. They had lifeguards on paddle boards next to the pier to where if one of us got in trouble, they'd be able to pull us out of the water. All of us that were under there are strong swimmers. We grew up in the area, so we all swim real well, and we were only actually about 30 yards from the beach.
10 firefighters were treated for smoke inhalation and other injuries. One of them was hospitalized for observation. Because the fire was moving so rapidly, there were close calls.
An hour into the fire, we had a 4-minute gap where it knocked out almost all the radio traffic other than direct. If you were line of sight very direct, I could talk to a few of those people, but I could not talk to the south sector. For 4 minutes, I was trying to communicate with anyone on the south sector, and we believe it's probably our fireboat was underneath the pier, and they hit some wires with their antenna, and some of our radio techs believe that it could be that keyed the mic and left an open mic on the fireboat, which knocked out the radio for most of the units on the fire. It was kind of scary for me because that was about the most intense part of our fire. Tremendous amount of black smoke coming from the south sector and no communication. I had serious doubts as to whether those guys had gone in the water because we were having portions of the pier collapse at that time.
I think we just lost the water main under the pier. 6-1 Redondo, I'm going to need the Edison company, the gas company, and the water company to respond immediately. Tell them we have a major emergency, a fire situation. We're going to need their crews here to do some shutdown immediately. We're going to lose the Breakers restaurant. I see smoke issuing from the roof.
With so many different agencies participating in the fire, there were communications problems, physical barriers and interference, different operating frequencies.
As frequently happens in mutual aid incidents like this, not all fire departments work on the same frequency. And so we did not have direct radio contact with the incident commander because we work on, our handy talkies and portables work on different frequencies than Redondo Beach Fire. Our communication links went through our agency representative at the command post to county chiefs back at the command post who communicated with the Redondo dispatcher.
On the whole, there was excellent cooperation between the media and those fighting the fire, but there was one exception. A helicopter with a television crew came in too close in an effort to get a scoop on the story.
There was only one major problem that we had with the media, and that was a news helicopter that early on, about 20 minutes into the fire, he was flying very low. The Edge restaurant was starting to go at that time, and he wanted to get some good footage of it, so he put his helicopter right on top of the restaurant. This made a tremendous problem for the north sector firefighters in as much as it drove the flames and smoke on top of them. He was way too close. I know that this particular helicopter monitors our radio frequency, so I got over the radio frequency and asked him to leave. He didn't leave. I again got on the radio and told him that if he didn't leave, I knew where he landed his helicopter and I would have him arrested. At that persuasion, he left.
The firemen have been reminded over and over again to talk with news people only about the subjects they're qualified to talk about.
One theory now is that the storms in January might have affected the wiring under the breakers. Have you heard that so far?
That's a question I think you're going to have to ask one of the battalion chiefs, and I don't think I can divulge that information.
We did have a problem with news people wanting to get the story. And the reason that we have this policy is not that we don't want our people to be seen on the news, but no misinformation should get out. Some of the media did go after our people to get the scoop, so to speak, to find out what was happening out there, and to try. And I think they asked them some questions that they probably shouldn't have. Our guys are not experts as to the dollar loss, as to the insurance, as to the time it took to get water extinguished or whatever. That should have come from the incident commander. So suggestion to anybody out there is try to convince your people that they can speak about their particular operation. Yeah, it was hot. It was smoky, those kind of things. But as far as being experts, as far as dollar loss and tactics, that should be handled by the incident commander.
Once the firefighters had completed their work, investigators quickly moved in an effort to determine the cause of the fire. And there was good reason. The ocean was washing away the evidence.
We had to get up at the crack of dawn, of course, and get back out there because the surf began to rise. We can really isolate the area of origin to about a 30-foot circle. No closer than that. We know that it started underneath the deck. We know that it started between those bents 4 and 5, measuring due north from Murata Pearls. But as a cause, it's undetermined.
As a result of the blaze, the firemen are taking a closer look at Pier construction and propose modifications in hopes they can offer suggestions to prevent a similar disaster.
I learned that we probably underestimated the potential of the pier. I never thought I'd be calling in the Coast Guard to rescue us from the water side, so to speak. We have a fireboat, and I didn't think I'd be getting an 82-foot Coast Guard cutter.
Shortly after the blaze, the Redondo Beach Fire Department began analyzing the fire. The sessions included viewing videotapes shot by their own personnel and other sources. Redondo Beach also used its own audio-visual equipment to simultape the interviews that were done for this program.
Well, this fire was probably unique in that it was so well documented. Not only did we have footage that our own personnel shot, but we've had a lot of footage donated to us by news agencies. We've had pictures come in from people who shot 35mm photos. Fortunately, we had a lady on a sailboat who shot the start of the fire, so we were able to reconstruct the pier as it looked in the early stages of the fire. So we've been able to document the fire virtually from beginning to end. One of the things that's come about our video department is that for the last 3 years, we've been shooting important buildings in our city. This is paid off in the pier fire, but in the storm damage we had, because we were able to go back and see how those buildings looked before the storms. And the city used that footage to gain federal funding, to get insurance monies, to reconstruct the area how it looked before, so that was easier to gain federal funding.
The firefighters have learned a great deal from this blaze, and they're passing this information on to the city officials. They plan to start new construction of a pier next year. In Redondo Beach, California, I'm Sam Chulin for American Heat.
The Redondo Beach Pier fire pointed out a number of graphic lessons which members of the fire department learned forcefully and which they would like to share with you.
It became apparent that to coordinate these boats, we had to get portable radios on marine channels for the fire commanders to tell the boats where to locate. And that was done somewhat later in the fire. Until that point, I used runners to talk to a non-fireboat that could radio the fireboats to position themselves.
To me, in retrospect, like a high-rise fire laying on its side. You have two ends to the fire, and you have difficulty getting water on the fire.
If you do not panic, you have time, even with breathing apparatus on, once you go in the water, to float and to remove that equipment. And providing you don't have extremely cold water, you can manage yourself, you can jettison your air mask, jettison your turnouts, and swim to safety.
And as I saw men disappear into the smoke on the ends of hose lines and down into holes on catwalks, I made it my first priority to count people every minute or so.
Where we were hurting the most was in the logistics area, the shuttling of equipment. Everybody was going into our fire, but nobody was coming out. So we had air recharging units there. Early on, we had the ability to recharge our air system, but we didn't have the shuttle system that we needed to get the empty bottles back out and then get them returned. So
if you can probably get somebody in the water, you know, with scuba gear in the water with a float with a hose line on it, would probably be the best means of fighting an under-pier fire.
I think everybody in the world had a better view of the fire than we did. Our noses were right on the deck the whole time. Visibility was about 0 from about 10 minutes on in the fire.
When we go under the pier, I think the best thing to do is to go under as light as possible without having to carry a lot of excess equipment so you can be more maneuverable.
The fireboat is expendable. Toward the end of the fire, we didn't care whether we were hitting pilings or did damage to the fireboat. We were interested only in putting the fire out.
And I would urge all fire combat officers to always be ready to retreat from an offensive position to a defensive position. In this case, I believe this is what eventually saved the remainder of the pier.
Well, it's been absolutely phenomenal how the footage has aided us in how we fought the fire. We've been requested by a number of agencies to provide training programs. We'll be on the International Fire Chiefs Conference.
I think when you're dealing with multiple agencies in terms of marine fire protection, we have to consider fireboats as we do land companies. We need a staging officer, someone who's maybe out on a boat that's not involved in the fire to stage the apparatus. We need communications with those boats so that they can report to incident command and we can give them a strategic assignment.
The fact is that sprinkler systems under the pier would probably have held the fire in check. But reality is 90% of the recreational wooden piers in the United States don't have sprinklers. And professional firefighters know our chance of getting retrofits is about 0. But the thing we have to do is do a better job in fire prevention of obtaining access under those piers, particularly those that are covered with concrete.
it's discussed that we lost $8 million worth of pier here. Well, we saved probably another $100 million, so that's a good point.